Writing.
Whoa, you're typing real fast there, Donald. You're sweating like a pig.
I don't know if I'm sweating like a pig, David. Maybe like a nerdy loser arguing on social media, but not quite like a pig.
What an interesting simile. Maybe you don't need the product I'm selling this week.
No, I need it. I need it like a flea needs a dog, like a quarter needs a vending machine, like an old man needs a prostate exam.
Wow, you definitely don't need it, Donald. I might as well not even do this advertisement.
Do it, David! Sell me this product like a snake oil salesman sells, snake oil.
You stumbled there a bit, so maybe you do actually need this product after all. In that case, this week, we at the Ritwit are proudly sponsored by this machine that's as handy as an octopus with mittens. The Simile Simulator. Does your story need this classic word trope of comparing things to something else and you're as clueless as a teenager in a classic 90s high school comedy? Then try out the Simile Simulator, which will assimilate similes and simulate them to stimulate your mind.
Whoa, are we also selling the alliterative allocation agency again? That's more old news than a dinosaur. And for more on dinosaurs, please listen.
The Simile Simulator will refurbish your writing like a high-end furniture store, turning words into wisdom and comparison into child's play. No story has too many similes, Donald. They're like Funko Pops on the shelves in the background of YouTube videos. You can never have too many.
I'd argue some of those are metaphors over similes, but what do I know? I'm dumber than a doornail.
It's dead as a doornail, Donald.
I don't know. Me dumb. Also, that's a cliche.
Sounds like someone needs some simile simulation. It's such a sweet sensation, assimilating similes.
Alliterations? Cliches? Metaphors? What the hell are we selling anymore, David?
I'll tell you what we're selling. The Simile Simulator. You can write more words with more love, with more similes.
That's repetition, not similes.
More repeating?
That's periphrasis.
Repeat?
That's polyptotin. What are we selling anymore?
Out. Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of The Ritwit, the show with two twits who can't say anything without proving we're dumber than you, bolder than the average, and more creative than an inanimate object. And if we can make a podcast claiming superiority, so can you, right?
Everyone's superior, which means no one is, but...
It's the whole thing of if everyone's special, then nobody should be,
Yes,
right?
no, exactly. No, you know,
we're all unique.
We're all unique, so we're all the same. I'm just... Man, you know, those kind of, like... things, they just drive me crazy.
Counterintuitive. Very counterproductive.
Everyone likes dinosaurs, so no one does. Wait, that doesn't work.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
I don't think anyone dislikes dinosaurs. Maybe some hardcore religious people. There's some people who don't care about dinosaurs. Sure.
Apathy.
But I don't
is
think
not
there's
dislike.
anyone. I don't think anyone like actively is like, oh, I hate dinosaurs.
And hey, if you really do like dinosaurs, then you should also go listen to Matt Donald's other podcast, Paleo Bites.
That is, yeah, hopefully so. It's doing quite well. I'm excited.
More excited for that than for this?
Hey, we got some exciting stuff coming up later on, so we'll get to that later, though.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome back. We're we're in the middle of our set about rooting interests, and the last couple of weeks we talked about the really easy stuff.
Yeah, like the rooting against the hero.
Rooting against the villains, rooting for the heroes. Not in that order, but
yes,
whatever
good guys,
have you.
bad guys. You root for the good guys.
The things that you expect to do going in, right?
You want the good guys to do good. You want the bad guys to stop doing bad.
Well, if we're using our basketball metaphor that I'm just suddenly writing on here.
Okay, you're the sports guy, would have no idea. So
like you know the layup shots,
yes,
right? That are supposed to be really high percentage shots because you're so close to the basket.
Okay.
Now we're stepping out into the middle of the court where we're not as close. We have more of a margin of error where we miss more ways. It's a harder shot.
I don't get sports.
It's a harder shot, in other words.
I don't get sports.
You don't have to.
Sports are dumb.
But anyway, before we jump into today's
ball.
topic, we do have our typical segment, What We at the Ritwit Have Writ.
What we at the Ritwit have writ. What have we writ indeed? Oh, it's a nice day here in the Ritwit studio.
It's totally our studio,
it's
by
our
the
studio.
way.
I've already peed in the corner to mark my territory.
Your dog's going nuts.
Yeah, no.
Because you marked instead of it.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Anyways, I'm at a key battle scene in Teslanauts, something I've been planning to do for a long time. In fact, since I initially came up with this idea way back in like 2011 or whenever. 10 years ago. God, time flies.
Yeah, it does.
I came up with Megazoic in like 2001 though, or 20 years ago. Damn, I'm old.
Well, it's all in the eye of the beholder. I mean, obviously, like there will always the people older than you will always be older than you. The people younger than you will always be younger than you.
That is how linear time works. Yes,
unless it's a wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Or
thing,
if relativity
like
is
Gallifrey
involved.
or whatever.
If relativity is involved, if like.
But I'm not smart enough
Tweedledee
to know
and Tweedledum. If Tweedledum,
did I really just say relativity? Oh
relativity. Clearly, you aren't smart enough. You dumb too. But if Tweedledee and Tweedledum are by a black hole, and Tweedledum gets sucked into the black hole, but then eventually, wait, hold on.
Actually, there was a really interesting book I remember reading in middle school. Unfortunately, the title evades me right now, and the author for that matter. But this premise was there were identical twins, and the younger twin went out to the shed to do something, found out that time was operating differently, and lived out there for what felt like a year. And so his body grew, but the rest of time wasn't moving. So when he came back, he was physically a year older than his older twin brother.
Well, actually, how relativity works, if you have twins like Tweedledee and Tweedledum goes out into space and flies out in light speed all over the place, he doesn't seem to age that much, but he comes back and suddenly Tweedledee is like 20 years older than he is.
Tweedledee is 20 years older than he.
Tweedledum is 20 years young. Anyways, this action scene in Tesla Knots, it's pretty cool. I've been playing for a while. It involves a train. I've always wanted to write a train action scene.
You were inspired by Spider-Man 2, I bet.
Oh, no, that was a train in the city.
Fair enough.
There was just a train in the mountains. I was kind of inspired by a bunch of things, like a little bit of Spider-Man 2, a little bit of Uncharted, a little bit of like Lone Ranger.
I don't know if you've seen Snowpiercer at all. But
I've heard of Snowpiercer.
Or like Unstoppable, I think is another one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like a good train action scene. Also, I'm inspired by other things from like other things that aren't involved trains. You gotta pick. My dad's always like, you gotta make your puzzle pieces smaller. We're all inspired by things,
right?
But we gotta. And so we take certain inspiration from certain things. But as long as we take inspiration from a bunch of things, the puzzle pieces are so small that we can't make out what they all mean. Well, then if we had only a few things, the puzzle pieces would be so big, we'd be like, oh, this part's just like a Spider-Man 2.
Well, and something that we mention very frequently on the podcast, there's no such thing as an original idea. It's how you combine things together that's different.
Yes, indeed. Well, also, I've been planning some sequel ideas for Tesla Knots 2, including a very intriguing installment that, not to give too much away, is kind of inspired by the Lost World sort of elements. Ooh.
Oh, great. Dinosaurs will exist. Just wait.
I mean, they did exist, and they still do exist in the form of birds. But I didn't necessarily say this is about dinosaurs.
Well, you said The Lost World, which is literally word for word the title of the sequel to Jurassic Park.
Well, no, or the original Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which also has dinosaurs, but just a sort of like Lost World sort of thing with like an island, a mysterious island, and something going on, and there could be weird creatures there.
Mysterious islands, you say? You should watch Power Rangers Wild Force, where there's a mysterious island in the sky.
You and your references. You were reading Huckleberry Finn last time.
I know.
And now you don't get references to the original Lost World or
because
the original...
I haven't read the original Lost World
or the original
by
Mysterious
Sir Arthur Conan
Doyle. The original Doyle. Wow. What's going on with you, man?
Trying to talk over
You're
you is
broken. You gotta get your oil changed.
Implying that I'm a vehicle that needs it.
Anyways, but you don't get the original. You don't get the original Mysterious Island by Jules Verne.
No, I haven't read them, so I can't.
Okay. Or the mysterious...
Well, I mean, look at how long it took me to get to Huckleberry Finn, so...
Yeah, okay. I'm just feeling a little bit vindicated. When one time I'm like, oh, I'm playing Star Wars Pod Race. Like, oh, I'm reading Huckleberry Finn.
I wasn't saying that like an elitist thing.
Classic literature while you're playing your silly little
I wasn't saying that like an elitist thing, but what have you?
But now I'm the elitist, bitch. All right.
Oh, Lord.
Anyways, this Lost World may or may not have dinosaurs. I don't want to say either way.
Yeah, I can't give that away yet.
Dang it.
You haven't even finished the first book to write it, so...
Okay, let me just say something up front. I don't think it's much. It doesn't involve dinosaurs, but it has something cool with it, though. It does something cool, though. Something unexpected. So yeah, no dinosaurs. I've written one story about dinosaurs. That's enough.
You've written actually 4 in that. By the way, all of those books in the Megazoic saga are available on Amazon.com for print and Kindle.
Ding.
Make sure to review if you buy them.
Ding. Or like a suggestion.
Ding.
Maybe. Anyways, what about you? What have you read?
Yeah, I just to keep everyone up to speed, and this is less important to the time we were recording this now as opposed to the time I made these notes beforehand. But I made a promise to myself after skipping NaNoWriMo last year that I was going to have a word count goal for every month.
Yes, how's that going?
Well, I met my word count goal for the month of January.
Yay! What about February?
We're in the middle of February, and we're recording this in the middle of February, so I am going to tell you that I'm not done with my word count for February yet, but I am over halfway there.
Yay! And more than halfway through February, so that works out.
Theoretically, pace-wise. Anyway, I was working on a few things that kept pushing me to further those stories, like Pharaon Storm, I've been working on for many years. My Thrill Seeker with Consequences that I mentioned, I think, last set.
Ooh, interesting. I know you were doing Pharaon Storm again, too.
Yeah, well, a little bit. There's the thing about Pharaon Storm that's interesting is that I wanted to do something I've never seen in a Power Rangers fan fiction and, like, have a mini episode devoted to the side characters.
Oh, yes.
Because they're really... underrepresented on screen, but they're still supposed to be important. Like, there has to be a reason for them to exist.
TV Tropes calls that a day in the limelight. So that's
fair enough. But anyway, so I did a mini-sode for January, and I did get that all done. So now I can continue further with the story.
I need to continue my episodic stories, like Newbies of Valhalla. Like, just because I can't really publish them doesn't mean I can't write them. Like,
not at all. I mean, you can do whatever you'd like as a writer, because that's why you're writing. Correct?
That is, yeah. I'm writing to write, and for the fame.
You're writing to write, right?
Right. I'm writing to write, and for the fame and fortune, obviously.
Of course. Secondary benefits.
Subscribe to my Patreon, listeners.
Judging.
All right.
But anyway, my Thrill Seeker with Consequences that I've talked about, I haven't done as much with that recently. I need to get back into that story a bit more. Some stuff for the podcast here and other things as well. Beyond that,
yes,
I am excited to announce the rough cuts are done on a new podcast venture starring yours truly and one of our mutual friends.
Yay!
I'm excited to bring you more from that once it's ready to be accessed proper.
Indeed. You need to get a job so you can host the website and pay for it.
Yeah. Anyway.
You moocher. No, he's not mooching off of me. He's using the studio that I'm paying for, so I guess he is.
But you're using it. It's not like I'm coming here on your dime without you being
true.
Here.
If you recorded Nerds Are Us here with your
that
friend,
would be mooching.
Yeah, but it's called Nerds Are Us, but it's not available yet. So.
Well, and you mentioned it in the witties anyway, so it's not like the title is entirely a secret.
Anyways, none of this nonsense. Why do people like us? Why do people root for us? They shouldn't root for us
at all. And speaking of which...
Yes.
We're going to get into our topic, which is rooting
against the heroes.
Sorry, I was going to have to scroll up and make sure I didn't say the wrong one.
Rooting, sort of, for the anti-heroes. There we go.
Maybe so. Anyway, rooting interests are generally intuitive.
Yes.
You see this person grow in front of your eyes, almost falling for them. They usually overcome something to win.
Right.
Bad guys get their comeuppance or meet their end, depending on the genre. It satisfies the reader.
Good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people.
You hope. But there are fascinating studies to be done in the opposite cases. Which means we now come to those good guys that don't sit so well with readers.
Oh. What are these guys? Sitwell, like Agent Sitwell from Marvel.
I did not intend that, actually.
He didn't sit well with me. I'm so glad he was Hydra. Nah, he was all right. But...
Are there certain character archetypes that lend themselves to being a focal protagonist, but not easy to root for?
The way I see it, there are two types of good guys that the reader shouldn't root for, and it all depends on whether the good guys are the protagonist or the antagonist.
Yeah.
Because, there are plenty of good antagonists. It's not always good versus evil. Sometimes it's gray versus gray, or in the more cynical stories, evil versus evil. Well, I guess some stories can have evil versus evil, too. That can be kind of fun if you have, like, a bunch of factions, two of them who are bad, fighting each other.
Well, I mean, you have a bunch of empires fighting over land. It's a territory war. Who's really in the right? Who's really in the wrong? Both of them think they're in the right.
World War II...
And everyone else is like, you're wrong!
Most real-life wars are very, very gray, but World War II was actually pretty black and white. I mean, not all, obviously. Most soldiers on both ends were just following orders or whatever.
Well, that's the other thing about soldiers, is that whether they have a bad reputation for putting their personal desires aside and following orders, which is not necessarily a bad or good thing.
But like a good example of evil versus evil during World War II was the Eastern Front. when you have the Nazis versus the communists.
Yeah. Well, and the old saying that history is written by the victors. Who really wants the communists or the Nazis to win in that conflict?
Yeah, exactly. You're just hoping they kill each other off somehow. But
there are a bunch of different ways to have allegiances in a multi-faction conflict.
yeah, it's just cool. I think it's cool, like Stalin versus Hitler. That's one thing that actually happened. But in terms of other things, there's also sometimes good versus good.
Yeah.
The good antagonist is someone that the protagonist is fighting against because they know this antagonist is wrong, even if they mean well, and thus the protagonist is forced to fight them to get the right thing done.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to do it. I did this in my third Megazoic book, The Hunted Ones, by Amazon.com. Wow, there's been too many at this point. No more. No, it's fine. I'm really close to that button, guys. It's getting there. I just need to.
He needs more patrons to get that and make it a reality. Please subscribe.
I need to just get shipped in. Just have it right here. Just like, and I want to get really high up there so I don't even press it myself. I just get my intern. Like, press the button.
Button press in 3, 2, 1.
Ding! Okay, now go get me my coffee, intern. 2 sugar cubes! Don't use skim milk. 2% is the only way to go.
Can you tell he used to work at Starbucks, listeners?
All right, we didn't have sugar cubes at Starbucks, but
no, I'm just saying, like, being so precise with your coffee order.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Anyways,
where was I? All right, so
mine.
So in my third Megazoic book, a character who's unquestionably heroic and is on the side of the protagonist most of the time ends up fighting the protagonist for reasons you'll have to find out.
No, wait.
Wait, no, just. No. Well, the spoilers. I'm not revealing who it is.
You're not.
So none of these sounds. We're not editing in
Fine.
sound.
Fine.
No
I'm just
sounds.
making noise on purpose because I want to.
No, okay. You're making noise on purpose. I remember back in those days. I wanted to make noise on purpose, but then I turned 3, and then I was like, I'm too mature for this now.
Depends. Are you really good at making the noises or not? Because practice makes permanent.
Anyways, an interesting variation of this is also when it's the protagonist, though, that we're supposed to root against. And they're doing some things that are wrong and going down the wrong path, and conflict is how other characters deal with them. Like how a person's obsession can drive them to do terrible things while still being the good guy. There's one person that loves this in his films. It's Darren Aronofsky, or as the cool kids call him, Darren Aaron.
Nice. I want to real quick ask you about, when you think about this, is that something that can be accomplished by point of view?
Yeah, I think so. Although I think it depends. Like, if you have a protagonist who's slipping, like he's being obsessive and doing these terrible things, it can be good to be in his head too, to be like,
why is he doing it?
Why is he thinking this way? Why do you think he's justified? But it can also be good to view it from the other people's head, like, what is this? What have you become?
Not to belabor the point, but we did do a set on point of view with perspective, so go listen to that if you're
for
curious.
goodness sakes, you're just...
I'm not saying anything, I'm just pointing that out.
We did. I don't remember.
It's some
Thankfully,
episode.
I don't remember what episode it was, so you're going to have to go find it yourself. So.
And while you're there, no. All right, anyway.
What about you?
I believe that if you can't justify someone's acts, you're less likely to root in their favor.
Right.
Now, this is independent of protag, antag, good or bad. It's just universal, right?
Right.
That said,
I am pro tag. I like people wearing tags, like dogs.
I'm very anti-tag. No, it doesn't work. Anyway, come
close.
Antag happen. Anyway, moving on.
Is that what it comes from? Is that the etymology of it?
Bull crap. All right. Given that these senseless things can happen among your protagonist group, that's where you will run into a character people love to root against, even though they're supposedly on the right side of the conflict.
Of course.
Smaller scale also, you can have one major decision that doesn't sit well with other characters in interaction.
Like siding with Hydra, like Sitwell did.
But large scale, these are the sleazy folks who come out on top in spite of their unsavory characteristics.
Ah, yes.
The snobs who throw others to the wolves without warning. The schemers who play the field ensuring their survival to the end, but not really attaching to any one group. Those kind of characters.
I think there's a fine line between what we're talking about here and what we talk about in the next episode. Which
we're probably going to have
Which,
foghorns
of course,
coming up.
a foghorn. Oh well, I do this to myself, but it's just because there's the whole thing of the villain protagonist. Is that a hero we're supposed to root against, or is that a villain we're supposed to root for? I mean, I guess we'll get into it more as we go on, but
I don't know. I think that would depend on what story the author is accomplishing with that character.
right. I think this is more characters who, in their essence, somewhere deep down, are really good people. They just do things that are bad, and we're supposed to root against them. So,
Or these are people who are not who are not obviously on the wrong side of the conflict, but are just atrocious people.
right, maybe something like that. Just or something that's like someone who's incredibly good and is morally upstanding, but just happens to be on the other side of the protagonist.
There's an example of that particular thing that I thought of that we need to save for next time. So we'll move on to the
Of
next
course.
question, which
Yeah.
is, does the author have an obligation to grow the character so that they end up being root-worthy?
It depends on the story you want to tell. But most instances, I say no, not necessarily. Although if you go too far, the character you're rooting against might end up becoming a villain rather than hero. And for more on that, listen to the episode before this. Or the episode after this. That was me blowing my brains out. Anyways, if you have the character we're rooting against remain wrong the whole time, it can create an interesting and complex narrative, even if they remain on the side of good. But you have to be careful with it, though, so the reader knows that this character still means well.
The whole anti-heroes thing where they decide that what they do, the proof is in the pudding, even if it's not really understandable right away.
Right. It's like, it's kind of like, and I guess you'll get to this too, the well-intentioned extremist sort of thing, which can be used for both heroes and villains. Mostly it's villains, but in terms of, if it's a hero, it's more likely this thing, where it's like we're like, oh no, what are you doing? That's too far, even if it's going to be good eventually. So no, I don't think...
What's the magical line to cross,
Right, the moral...
As far as morality goes, good or bad, as far as the focus goes, protagonist, antagonist kind of thing, those two.
It's all very fluid. The whole of storytelling, and I'd argue the universe, is just a giant Venn diagram with thousands upon billions of circles that all intersect in a big mess of a way.
Except that one in the middle that doesn't intersect with any of them because it just wants to be odd. Anyway.
That was me in third grade. But anyways. That was
third grade at home.
Yep, homeschooled, with no friends except my mother. Like a true cool person. All right.
Oh,
we were
my
2 years
gosh.
from meeting, you and I, so...
Yeah, at that point, yes.
Anyways.
It's amazing how long we've been friends even after all
20
that.
years this year we've been friends.
It's amazing, but the bigger point of it is that, holy crap, if we didn't like each other enough, we probably would have quit a long time ago because we insult each other so much.
I saw someone say something about, man, if we weren't friends, we'd just hate each other. But no, I love you, man.
Likewise, buddy.
Okay, anyways, I should have dumped you 15 years ago. Anyways. All right.
You're stuck with me now.
Anyways, what about you?
All right. If you feel like having them as a protagonist for the entire story, then I believe you do have some obligation to, improve them.
Right. I mean, that's just character progression, development.
Right. Well, of course, they have to be dynamic. Otherwise, why do you have them? If they don't show any redeeming qualities, it's more likely they're on the slippery slope to outright villainy already.
Ooh.
Obviously, the constraints of the duration of your plot play in, as does the genre to some extent. You're not probably seeing, to quote trope names, the heel face or the face heel turns in like a romance novel, a dime store romance thing.
I mean, it depends.
Depends. The X might become a really bad...
Murdering the hypotenuse sort of thing. Have you heard that trope?
Murdering the hypotenuse.
You get what it means by that, right?
Oh, boy.
In a love triangle.
I'm aware of what hypotenuse is.
Okay.
And if you don't know what that is, kids, look
listen
up
to
math.
listen to our math podcast, which doesn't
Totally.
exist and shouldn't exist.
Should never exist.
If
We're
you have a
terrible with
math podcast, you should shut it down and shoot yourself in the head. You should be ashamed.
That's not true. If we have a math podcast, we should shut it down. If you have a math podcast, more power to you, because you probably know more than us. If you're bold enough to do that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Okay, no, it's fine. Math podcasts are all right.
Obviously, the concept.
It's just math that's the problem.
Yeah. But how far must you, as an author, alter the character to have someone rooting for their continued growth and lasting impact? That's something that I can't lay out even a guideline for, because it all is in the eye of the audience, no matter what the author intends. Maybe it's simply one trait that justifies your act of having them not aligned with the antagonist, or plural, and showing through that prism how they grow during the main narrative.
That's a cool prism. I mean, prisms are cool in general,
But, like, as far as you might not take them all the way to being someone that people want to cheer on.
Right.
But at least that there's growth such that you can justify they're still a protagonist rather than becoming an antagonist or just removing themselves from the conflict.
Exactly. It's like they haven't quite become a face. They're getting close.
They got half an eyebrow.
They're on the cusp of a heel. They're still a heel. Wait, which one's which?
I don't know. I lost this metaphor a long time ago. All right.
I think heel is the bad guy and face is the good guy.
Well, theoretically, because heel face is going from bad to good, right?
Yeah. Okay, so they have a cusp of a heel. There's like a little, what's this thing called? The sole? Just
The sole of your foot.
Just starting to turn into the toes.
Or are you talking about soul of the heart, like in the movie?
I'm talking about the sole of my shoe.
Yeah. S-O-L-E. Anyway.
Okay, anyways. Why? Oh, it's you that reads.
Well, I mean, if you want me to read them, I can.
Okay. Why would you want the readers to root against the hero? Surely they go against the narrative conventions, right? What are the benefits? What do you think, Donald? Well, I think that if it can make this... I think it can make a story much more complex and make the characters more three-dimensional. Most people aren't all good or all bad, and are capable of doing things that are either great or terrible depending on the path they take and the choices they make.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it depends on the story, though. Sometimes, especially in these hard times, readers want a character who's just good old-fashioned escapist and heroic.
I love escapism. I don't like reading about nonfiction for that precise reason that, like, if I'm reading, I do it to get away from things.
Yeah, escape to a new world. Even if not literally.
A whole new world. Anyway.
Okay. But, like, even giving these escapist characters a bit of an edge can give them a long way. Like, even Captain America felt like it couldn't live without a war.
Well, everything that he stands for, it was worth fighting to uphold, right?
Right.
Well, and, you know, I can tell that this is probably not, like, the only question that comes here because, like, you know the Ritwit, we're going to have what are the drawbacks? Spoiler alert, we don't.
Yep, I managed to not do that this time. Yeah! I'm growing. Character development from my end about me.
Yeah, talk about world building for our podcast. Anyway, if you are making the villains justified in their motivations, rooting temporarily for that side of the conflict makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you want them to win this battle even if you don't want them to win the war.
Ah, yes, of course.
One structure that comes to mind is the following. A redeemable, still unredeemed, villain against a hero, air quotes there, with a stinky personality in a direct comparison.
Ah, yes, he's notoriously flatulent.
No, more just like there's something terrible about him.
Yeah, he's notoriously flatulent. No,
that's a pretty minor sin if you think of the thing. Well, anyway,
I guess that's true.
Depends on who you ask, though.
He just loves Taco Bell. He loves it so much.
Sad reality is I'm probably getting Taco Bell.
Same. You gotta get some bean burritos with extra cheese and some nacho fries. Go. You know, I'm gonna Taco Bell sponsor me because those nacho fries are great. You guys should go get some nacho fries right now. They're so good.
I don't know if I'll ever try them, honestly.
Oh, they're great.
Anyway.
Fries with paprika on them. They dip in nacho cheese.
I get the whole point of nacho fries, but still.
So good. Anyways, continue. This podcast is officially sponsored by Taco Bell. Please, Taco Bell.
Please sponsor us. Anyway, and we're more likely to hope that this redeemable villain wins, even if it's only for that moment, right?
Right, yes.
Another benefit hinges on you eventually proving the character root-worthy, cheer-worthy, I guess, to use a different term. Fine. The dynamic growth of a character as they become worth cheering for means you start somewhere below normal baseline and still pull it off.
Which would be great. Good job, writer.
Well, I mean, if your normal baseline is neutral, right, and you start below that, so like a negative first impression, but then the character proves being worthy of your cheers.
Oh, that's fun. That can work.
Great.
That makes a good character progression, yeah.
Unfortunately, I suppose the more frequent model starts as a true redemption from antagonist to ally, the whole, further than below normal baseline.
Right.
So keep this in mind with next week's topic as well.
We've done enough foghorns.
So I'm skipping this one.
You
Moving
get
on
it.
to the last question.
That iceberg, we're just going to plow right through it. It's gonna...
The unsinkable Titanic. Anyway, what are some good examples of heroic characters that you not only rooted against, but the story wanted you to root against?
Ooh.
Surely they're rare, but notable.
Well, the classic example I can think of, especially for us, is Iron Man in Captain America Civil War.
He has a point.
He does have they all have points. Like at the end, when you hate to see it because you totally get on both ends. They're both right.
But they're also they're intractable positions. They
right.
could not go without conflict.
Right. They fight and you get it and you hate it, but oh man, it's good. Another good example, I'm going to go into more detail about this one.
Sure.
And speaking of Darren Aronofsky, good old Mr. Darren Aron, is
Bobby Darren Aron.
That does sound like a Southern name, doesn't it?
No, well, Bobby Darren is a musician. Anyway.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying like Billy Joe, Bobby Darren Aron. I always thought Darren Aronofsky was like one of those weird Scandinavian directors. Turns out he's American, so what do you know?
Well, I mean, America melting pot culture. You can look at a name and you can't guarantee anything anymore.
I guess. Well, I just meant based on the movies he makes, you know.
Oh, okay.
So seems like very artsy for like an American director. When I think of American director, I think of Michael Bay.
All right, explosions aside.
Anyways,
you were talking about Darren Aronofsky's Over, particularly
the character I'm talking about is Noah from the movie. Well, Noah. Now, let me preface this by saying that Noah isn't really a straight adaptation of the biblical story.
No.
And is more about using the story as a way to explore the issues of humanity and whether we're worth saving. Plus, it has giant rock monsters in a steampunk pre-flood empire, which I think is cool.
Selective historical fiction. I do really appreciate historical fiction, although some liberties were taken here.
Yeah, no, this is definitely more of a fantasy. Like, but so as the movie goes on, see, Noah is supposed to save them,
save humanity, save the animals through the flood.
Right, and it's just him and his family and his sons and their wives.
At least in the Bible version.
Right. Well, that's how it is initially in this version too. But then, after seeing the wickedness of man, and seeing his son's Ham's anger, and seeing the girl Ela, played by Emma Watson, who his other son Shim has married. And that she sells seashells by the seashore. Anyways.
You can do it.
His other son, Shim, he married her, but she's seemingly barren. And so all this combined with seeing that problem of the wickedness of man, he thinks we're not supposed to save humanity. We're supposed to get on the ark, take care of the animals.
But then we're done.
We're done. We'll live out our lives, leave no descendants. This is what God intended. And he just becomes more and more convinced that this is the case. He even lets a girl who his son Ham falls in love with die before he can take her aboard the ark, something that Ham never forgives him for.
Well, gee, I wonder why.
But then twist, Ela's not pregnant.
Not barren.
Not
she gets
barren.
Pregnant.
That's what I meant. She's not barren, and she is pregnant.
Oh, boy.
And Noah flips out. He speaks to God, and then he comes back with an interpretation that horrifies his family. If the baby's a boy, he'll let him live. But if it's a girl, Noah will kill her then and there.
Because procreation can happen without women.
Well, no, especially not back then, way back when we had, we didn't have genetic cloning yet.
Because we have genetic cloning now, right.
This pre-flood empire is pretty steampunk, but even that's too much for them. Anyways, naturally, not Noah, she's not a seahorse. Ela gives birth to twin girls. And while the family tries to stop Noah, they're unsuccessful. And Noah has his new granddaughters in his sight. Naturally, of course, you're supposed to root against him.
Yeah.
This is horrifying what he's doing. But he's become so driven doing what he thinks is right that he goes a bit insane.
Yeah.
However, and spoiler alert for Noah, it ends with Noah being unable to kill the babies, and he flees from his family once the waters recede. Then Elah seeks him out and asks him why he spared them. Noah says when he saw those 2 little girls, all he had in his heart was love. And while he's happy for Elah and the babies, he feels immense grief thinking he couldn't do what he thought God wanted. But then Elah's like, I think you did exactly what God wanted. God showed Noah the wickedness of man and knew that he wouldn't look away, but also knew that he would look inward and see the good. The choice was Noah's because God put it there. If Noah killed the babies, he would have proved that humanity was not worth saving, and humanity would die. Since he spared them, he proved that humanity was worth saving, and now we'll start again. And so he reconnects with his family, and they finally, sort of forgive him.
Well,
but
Ham probably doesn't, but
no, Ham leaves the family. He goes somewhere else. He can't.
Can't handle being near.
Like
the
Noah
father
even
who
says,
left
some
this
wounds
woman.
are too deep to heal. So it's a good movie. I know some people don't like it because it's not a straight adaptation of the Bible story, but also the Bible story is like 2 pages. It wouldn't be like a full movie. So
You have to add a lot to make it worth.
So
the runtime
I
film.
like what they were doing with it. It's not trying to be a straight adaptation. It's using it to explore these themes.
Well, and a thematic thing, particularly in Hollywood, those are really important. Quick offshoot here, saying that you don't have to include deeper themes in your work if you don't want to.
No, of course. Having your story be shallow and just be pure fun. I love those kind of stories. Like those are great. I was just thinking one of the inspirations also for my train scene in Tesla is G.I. Joe. That movie is the epitome of just shallow fun. I love it.
Well, toy fan wank and everything. But anyway,
yeah.
Hopefully Donald will forgive me for invoking a character from a video game here after all his movie examples. But Alistair Azimuth.
Oh, yes, you love this guy.
From the Ratchet
or
and
you
Clank
love what they
series.
do with this guy, at least.
You find out how devoted he is to a mission that he spent the rest of his life fulfilling, only to watch as the desperation enshrouds him and warps any semblance of goodwill he had left.
Right.
By the time we have to gear up and stop him from doing something horrible,
Yes.
we feel so much sympathy that you almost wish he could make his dream come true by another less universe-destroying means, perhaps, but still wanting the true protagonists to win.
I think that's great. And the fact that, spoiler alert, I mean, we're spoiling it already, but he's the final boss of the game. And a lot of the other bosses in the game have these big gimmicks, like that one big robot stomping through the city. You have to call up with the grav boots, and then do the stuff. Nefarious constantly throws stuff at you, and you have to use the hover
You have
boots
to
or
keep
whatever.
dodging.
Dodging, using the hover boots. With Azimuth, it's just 2 Lombaxes fighting in an arena. That's it, with their wrenches.
Well, and
and their
not
weapons.
necessarily with your engine from Ratchet's side, but certainly Azimuth. That's all he has.
Yeah, so
Because that's all he needs.
it's
He
just-
is so incredibly strong.
Well, it's just. I like. There's no BS about it. It's just no gimmicks. It's just 2 Lombaxes fighting.
Yeah. Well, and, despite saying all of this stuff I love about Alistair Azimuth, it is, in my mind, I'm not entirely sure it counts for this episode rather than, like, the next one. I don't know.
We should do a book. What's a book that this happened?
I can't come up with good examples fast enough to
how
do
you
this.
feel about the Witties is sometimes how I feel about this whole damn show. We're not qualified.
And yet we say we're better than you. Anyway, in the better answer from that same series, Captain Quark.
Oh, yes. Here we go.
While his allegiance is flighty at many points and he is notoriously absent from pretty much all of the hard parts of the game,
Oh, yeah.
he still inspires people. And yet he's like the main villain in the second game somehow. I'm not going to spoil that.
Yeah, he
and
basically is,
a bumbling stooge of the big bad in the original game, despite being Ratchet's idol growing up.
I like that progression. He starts out as his idol, but then by the third game, he's just like, you're pathetic, Quark.
We love to boo Captain Quark because of his incompetence, but otherwise, he's probably the most dynamic character of the series.
Well, and also, after, Ratchet gets onto him in the third game, and then Clank is like, the people of this galaxy need you, Quark. You could be the hero you always want to be. You just gotta
You always thought you were.
Yeah, you always thought you were. And then, so at the end, in the final battle against Nefarious, he comes in and helps on his ship a little. So that's pretty cool.
As I said, his progression is incredible because he goes from being just this, media popularity obsessed pretty boy, not at all, but to being a villain, to growing past that, earning respect for the real hero, but also proving that he had enough in him that maybe it wasn't completely fabricated to begin with.
Mostly fabricated, but
Mostly fabricated. We're not going to slap a percentage on this, but anyway.
Anyways, any other examples?
To change back to comics-inspired films.
Oh, yes, our favorite.
It's probably the phenomenon when an eagle-eyed fan understands this character won't stay good just by seeing the name drop.
Yes.
A la Mordo. From the Doctor Strange films, because any comics fan knows Baron Mordo.
Yes, indeed.
Which was not working with Stephen Strange. Anyway, enough.
I think it's really cool they cast Chiwetel Ejiofor for it, too, because he doesn't play villains often. So that's cool.
I really love when an actor's career allows them to play both sides, if you will, rather than consistently being only this guy, only the good or only the bad,
I actually loved it, speaking of Michael Bay.
Oh, boy.
I loved it in the third Transformers movie when Patrick Dempsey was one of the villains, was a human villain. That is not a guy you would expect, Mr. McDreamy.
No.
But he's so good because he's such a despicable villain. He does these things, you just want to punch him.
Well, and, it's worth mentioning that looks alone do not guarantee allegiance.
Yeah, no, of course, right.
So McDreamy, sure, he has a side that he tapped into to play this villain really well, right?
Anyways.
I know
those movies aren't good, but I love them.
I was saying about Mordo, you see his turn to villain, he teased even. And so it might be harder for that fan who saw immediately like, oh God, this guy's not staying where he is,
we'll
to
just see
root on Mordo while he's back-to-back with Strange in the first film.
That's true.
Hypothetically. Anyway.
I'm interested to see what they do with him. It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
I don't think he's supposed to be the villain in the second one, but we'll see.
I thought it was.
Maybe he was.
I thought he was supposed to be like one of the primary villains. Like,
maybe he could be one of the villains.
Could be one of, but...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't just let that go undone. The whole next time, baby, and then they recast Rhodey.
Well, they did that.
I felt so bad for Terrence Howard when that happened.
Well, they did that for Leader. They teased him at the end of The Incredible Hulk, and then, was it 13 years later? We're still waiting.
Well, we're still waiting.
His head's still growing.
But at least they didn't recast the guy.
I guess that's true.
Anyway.
His head, he's just writhing in the bottom of that thing. His head's starting to grow. It's growing forever. He's like, I'm going to be the leader one of these days. Just you wait.
Just you wait. Once I get up off the floor, you're all toast.
Yeah, I know it's been 13 years.
Somebody help. My arms are too short to get this heavy brain up anymore.
My head's too big. I can't wait.
I mean, I really wish I was, more well-read and more remembering of the things I have read to come up with a good book example. I know it must happen somewhere. There are too many books out there for it not to.
Here's one. James Potter.
Why would you want to? Oh, because of the pensive sequence.
Yeah, like at
fair enough.
At first,
all we have of him is the hero worship because Harry, it's his father. But then you see
not only that,
he's
his dead father.
But he was a terrible human being to Snape.
Yes,
when they were
exactly.
students together.
Yeah, exactly. And he kind of stole Lily from her. I mean, not quite. I mean, Lily wasn't
really interested in Severus, though.
Right,
but she was at least cordial.
She was friends with him.
And she started fighting with James about how he treated Severus. So.
Yeah, so...
Anyway,
that's an example I can think of. Yeah. From only the most popular book thing. We're so mainstream.
Mainstream while being completely off the stream entirely.
Here's this example from 15th century German Expressionism.
Let's go back to the time of Beowulf and find it. No.
Actually, Beowulf. No. Nah, he's all right. Anyways. All right. Well, is that it for this week?
I mean, I think so, unless you want to throw in a last-minute answer of what are the drawbacks of having people root against
what are the benefits?
Heroes.
What are the detriments? Well, we answered that anyways.
Well, I don't know if we did, but...
The benefit is that we get to keep this episode going. The detriment is that we don't have a lot of time to do our other stuff. So there we go. Done. That's it for this week.
It was more about the rooting against the
A huge thank you to all our patrons so far.
Yep.
You can contact us at mattsd@matthewdoncareer.com for any general questions to either co-host. If you want to specify one of us specifically, say Matt D or Matt. I mean, don't
Matt
say
D. Yeah,
don't
right.
say Matt. Say Matt Donald or Matt David.
Or
specify which one.
Donald or David works. But anyway, if you're coming to us from Apple Podcasts, please give us a rating.
Yes.
Review. We appreciate all of those. Wherever you're listening to us, anything that you can do to give us feedback is greatly appreciated.
It is. We like feedback. It helps the algorithm.
Yeah, totally.
Whatever that means.
Because we have such an algorithm. Although we are on YouTube as well, so if you're coming to us from that, please like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Algorithm stuff. Anyway, if you'd like to follow stuff personally.
Yeah, once you start your podcast, you'll finally be able to
add more to this.
Add more to this. But in terms of me, you can follow me at Matthewdon Creator on Facebook, at Matthewdon64 on Twitter, and Matthewdon64 on Instagram. Why 64? Because that's how many gallons of soda I drink every week. And not the traditional stuff like Coke or Pepsi, but those special Yugoslavian sodas with 50 times the sugar and caffeine as their American counterparts.
I mean, I know that some European sodas are because their portion sizes are way better in control, that they're generally healthier anyway.
But you know,
I don't know about the soda thing. No.
Yeah, no, I'm very healthy. Why do you ask?
Yeah, of course, totally healthy. I was gonna say, wasn't there a time in which you quit soda and you're back to drinking 64 gallons a week? That is obscene.
I have some real relapse problems.
All right, thanks for listening to The Writ with the show where us two twits have twitted ourselves out about writing.
I'm Matt Donald.
I'm Matt David. We'll be back next week with more on a series about rooting interests, and we'll see you next time. Until then,
keep writing, keep reading, keep washing your hands. Hopefully,
wear a mask if you're in public. Stay safe.
Get a vaccine if you can.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, bye.
Bye.
The Writ
What are we selling anymore?